When the wheels of the bus came to a stop and the driver turned around, there was no one left to board. Silence filled the empty seats. But the real shock came when the children's stories began to emerge. If this story shook you, make sure to subscribe to Cold Case Secrets, where we uncover the truth behind the world's darkest mysteries. It began in the little town of Pine Ridge, nestled in the rolling hills of southern Georgia. Mid-October, crisp air, golden leaves drifting from trees that lined quiet streets. The sun dipped early, shadows stretched long across sidewalks. In that calm, familiar place, something unthinkable would happen, and a community would be changed forever. Pine Ridge was the kind of town where people paused to wave when you passed. The kind of place where the local school bus driver, Mr. Benton, greeted each child by name, with a gentle nod and the same quiet kindness day after day. He'd been driving the route for years through winding country roads, past farmland and old, weathered barns. Everyone trusted him. Everyone assumed everything would be fine. On the morning of October 14, 2019, the route was routine. A yellow bus, number 27, rolled out of the depot at 7:15 a.m., fog hovering in the fields like ghosts, the exhaust a pale mist in the cool morning air. Mother and father kissed the children goodbye. Lunchboxes swung by their straps. Conversations about homework, weekend plans, birthday parties floated in the air. Nothing remarkable. No alarm. Until the bus vanished. The first sign something was wrong came when parents began calling the school. At noon, the children should have been returned home for lunch break in this district. The elementary kids arrived home midday, then went back for classes in the afternoon. But no bus. No children stepping off the curb. Some parents waited by driveways. The clock ticked past noon, then 12:30, 12:45. At 1 p.m., I panicked. At 1:15, official calls. The school district administrative office sent out emergency alerts. By 1:30, the local sheriff's office, the Pine Ridge County Sheriff's Office, was mobilized. The bus yard was locked. No one had seen anything unusual in the early morning. The driver, Mr. Henry Benton, was safe. The bus had never returned, but Mr. Benton had popped in later and someone realized the bus was missing. He had assumed perhaps a mechanical issue had delayed him. He'd gone home briefly, but the bus never came back. No children aboard. Officers scoured the route. Cameras at intersections, side roads, farm driveways. They found nothing. Nothing that explained how a full bus of children 14, 5, and 6-year-olds from Pine Ridge Elementary, plus the driver, could simply vanish. Windows intact. Seats are still scattered. The doors sealed. No wreckage. No trace. As evening settled, the sun dipped behind the tree line. Flashlights cut through the darkness. Search crews fanned out into the surrounding woods. Tractors shut off for the night. Farm animals lowered in the distance. The search grew frantic. For days, the county was gripped by confusion. News vans rolled in. Local radio described the missing bus as possibly stolen or worse. Families huddled in living rooms, clutching photos of smiling children, lunchboxes unopened. At every home, anxiety widened like cracks in a roadway. Yet amid the chaos, one thing stood out: the children's stories. When investigators finally spoke with the kids who had been supposed to ride that bus route, those who had waited and instead had been picked up by alternate vehicles, or had been substituted by parents unexpectedly, those children described something deeply unsettling. One 5-year-old named Lily said, "I saw a big man in a black jacket standing by the bus door. He waved at me, but he wasn't Mr. Benton." Another, 6-year-old Marcus, murmured, "The bus didn't go left. It went somewhere dark." The tales were fragmented, shadowy, but they pointed to something no one expected. Detectives realized they were dealing not just with a missing vehicle, but with missing children and a suppressed voice. A community forced to listen to tiny whisperings of fear. On that fateful morning, Bus 27 left the depot as always. Mr. Benton greeted the children at designated stops at Stop 1. Lucas Thompson, age 5. Stop 2. Maya Rodriguez, age 6. Stop 3. Olivia Nguyen, age 5. And so on, up to 14 children. The days have been consistent. The weather is mild. No issues. At Stop 4 on Maple Road, the bus stopped, and a young girl named Emma noticed something odd. The engine seemed quieter than usual, and the driver looked at his rearview mirror with a flicker of concern. She didn't say anything. She was 5. She trusted that the driver knew what he was doing. But she remembered. Further down the road, they passed the old abandoned farmhouse. The sun glinted off broken windows. The bus slowed more than usual. Parents later told investigators that Mr. Benton had changed the route slightly that day. He had informed the school secretary earlier that morning of road maintenance on Pine Ridge Road and that he would be taking the backcountry route. But staff later found no records of road maintenance. No notification to parents. That minor change would turn out to matter. Around 8:10 a.m., the bus reached County Road 12, a narrow stretch between trees and creek. That's where the trail ended. GPS on the bus's tracking system, which normally updated every minute, showed the final ping at 8:11. Then silence. The system died. The bus vanished off the grid. The alarm was raised at 12:45. Investigators converged on County Road 12 early the next morning. They found tire tracks 1 set wide, heavy, and deep veering off into a wooded area next to the creek. The road surface was undisturbed otherwise. No skid marks. No impact signs. It was as though the bus had rolled gently off the road into the woods. But no wreckage. No sign of children. In the woods, search teams found the bus door slightly ajar, hidden deep in brambles. The engine was off. The seats were empty. Lined lunchboxes still sat nets beneath the seats. The kids' backpacks were scattered. Mr. Benton was nowhere to be found. The scene gave the immediate impression of a forced disappearance, but unlike typical bus accident scenes, there were no obvious signs of violence or struggle. It felt orchestrated. Next, investigators looked for security footage. A farm at the edge of the woods had a motion camera for monitoring livestock. The footage showed the bus passing at 8:09, the headlights illuminating the narrow road. 2 minutes later, a dark SUV entered the frame from the opposite direction. The bus slowed. The SUV pulled alongside the bus for a moment, and the timer stamp blurred. Then both vehicles disappeared from view. The notion, the bus was intercepted. Whether by force or by deception was unclear. Parents sat in shock. They had assumed a crash or breakdown. Not this. Not a clean disappearance that left only the husks of what had once been a normal morning. The community's fear deepened. News coverage exploded. Locals conducted initial vigils. Tearful mothers stared at empty school chairs. The superintendent, pale and trembling, addressed the press. "We will find them. We will not stop until every child, and Mr. Benton, is safe." Detective Rachel Grant of the Pine Ridge County Sheriff's Office was assigned lead. She had a reputation for patience, for rooting out what others dismissed as petty. She arrived on site at dawn the next day. She walked the scene in the soft, gray light, the woods heavy. With mist. Leaves whispered underfoot. She knelt by the tracks. She felt the frozen cold of early morning dew. She listened. Her first breakthrough, the motion camera footage. She reviewed frame by frame the bus and SUV meeting in the dark. Enlarging the image revealed a license plate partially visible. 3 digits, 2 letters, but the sequence corresponded to an old plate that had been reported stolen 2 years earlier in a neighboring county. That told her the perpetrators had premeditated this. This was not random. Next, the children's statements. At the elementary school, small groups of children were brought in, one by one, to speak quietly with child advocacy specialists, with trusted counselors. The aim, to gather what they remembered without leading them. The children's words were disjointed, jumbled by fear and age, but the picture that emerged was chilling. Lily said she heard the bus door click shut twice, unusual. Marcus remembered the bus turning right when it always turned left. Olivia remembered a man in a black jacket boarding near the creek stop, whose face she couldn't see. A few kids recalled the driver suddenly slowing and looking in his mirror. Some claimed the bus lights dimmed, others said they heard someone whisper, "Hurry." All recalled the absence of the usual morning greeting from the driver. Detective Grant ordered a search of the bus company's records. She found the route change had been recorded, but the district office had no recollection of authorizing it. The bus company's dispatcher log showed an unscheduled route diversion to County Road 12, recorded at 7:55 a.m., just 10 minutes before departure. That was odd. That log entry was later traced to a company computer logged in from the driver's ID. But when Mr. Benton was interviewed, He denied making the entry. He seemed confused, intimidated, exhausted. His normally steady voice cracked when asked about the diversion. The investigation then expanded beyond Pine Ridge. Nearby counties' police departments were consulted. Similar incidents had occurred, but none involving a fully loaded elementary bus. Just reports of children allegedly picked up by wrong vehicles and returned days later, frightened, mumbling of strangers and woods and dark turns. Those incidents had gone unconnected. That would change. Detective Grant sent out an alert to state law enforcement. Any deviation of school bus routes, any missing bus. She also reached out to the family of Mr. Benton. He had rarely missed a morning, but on that Friday he had requested off the Monday after. He claimed he was exhausted. His wife reported increasing anxiety. He said he felt like someone was watching him. He didn't like to talk about it. Investigators inferred the driver had been under pressure, maybe coerced. Weeks passed. Volunteers fanned out into the woods. Cadaver dogs sweated under twilight. Helicopters scanned from above. Nothing. The bus remained missing. No body, no sign of Mr. Benton. The children remained unaccounted for. Then, on a rainy Saturday afternoon 6 weeks in, a call came in from the neighboring county of Sullivan. A farmer walking his dog discovered a small clearing deep in the woods beside a creek. He saw tire tracks. He followed them. What he found, a hidden trailer, old and rusted. Inside a handful of children's shoes. Tiny tennis shoes. One lunchbox flattened in the mud. A cracked bus window pane. The trailer door was ajar, swinging in the wind. Investigators sealed the site. In the trailer's interior lay a notebook. Names scribbled in childish handwriting, including those of the missing children. Mr. Benton's name was listed at the bottom. Detective Grant realized the kidnappers were proud of their capture. They were tracking them. Why, and for whom? Forensic teams found fingerprints inside the trailer, partial prints, smudged. The bus itself remained missing. The trail had gone cold again. Investigators turned to digital evidence. They obtained phone records of unknown numbers near the bus yard in the early morning of the disappearance. They discovered that a burner phone had pinged off a tower about 2 miles from the depot at 5:45 a.m., then off a tower near County Road 12 at 8:10 a.m., roughly when the bus went missing. The number dialed a number in a Miami area code. Detectives followed the trace. That lead went cold after the number was disconnected. Meanwhile, parents felt they lacked answers. They started a community group, Bring Our Kids Home. Candlelight vigils ran nightly. News helicopters circled. A somber pall hung over Pine Ridge Elementary. The bus company discontinued services, replaced drivers and routes. But underneath all the procedural steps, the emotional damage was deep. Then came the breakthrough, unexpected, small, human. A school bus aide from a neighboring district, Mrs. Diaz, remembered seeing a black SUV parked for 5 minutes near the depot the evening before the disappearance. She filed a formal statement. The description matched the vehicle on the farm footage. That SUV became central. Search warrants were executed on all matching vehicles in the region. A suspect emerged, a man named Derek Malone, age 47, who worked as a long-haul trucker and had parked his rig near Pine Ridge the night before. His logs showed a gap from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. He told investigators he was asleep in his sleeper cab near the depot. His wife backed up his story, but his rig was tied to an old business claim of moving surplus vehicles between counties. Detectives found he had rented a barn on County Road 12 a year earlier, a barn that matched the trailer site. His phone data placed him near the clearing 6 weeks earlier. Malone became the prime suspect. The night of the arrest was tense. Deputies surrounded his property at dawn. They found the barn deserted, but inside, bus route maps, students' names, lunch receipt stubs, and photographs of bus number 27. Malone was taken into custody. He maintained silence. His attorneys later claimed he pleaded the Fifth. But Detective Grant felt it. This man was central to the disappearance. Yet the bus and children remained missing. No one had seen them. No ransom demands. Nobody. Just chilling silence. The case grew more complicated and the investigation entered dark territory. What investigators discovered next changed the nature of the case entirely. Malone's barn lease contract revealed he was actually associated with a covert salvage company, one that contracted with municipalities to remove and dispose of defunct vehicles. On the surface, it is legitimate, but deeper digging showed invoices for yellow 40 passenger units and statements like reprogramming for internal use. One invoice arrived a month before the disappearance, referencing bus 27's VIN number. That meant someone planned the disappearance for weeks. But that wasn't the worst part. A tracked purchase of heavy-duty rubber mats, tinted window film, and a second burner phone network surfaced in surveillance. A database cross-check found Malone's name linked to a former private security firm that provided services to a private prison complex in Florida. Investigators realized this was not just kidnapping. This might be human trafficking. Then came the Children's interview transcripts, the ones withheld from public release. One line stood out. The man said we would ride again, somewhere sunny. Another, he took our pictures. He told us to be quiet. Those kids were transported out of state. And then the shocking connection. One of the children's backpacks ended up in a storage locker in Miami. FBI agents found a tag matching the bus route and the school district. They traced the locker to a shell company associated with Malone's salvage firm. Bus 27 had been dismantled, trucked in pieces, shipped to a sawmill in Georgia, then loaded onto a container heading to Florida. The yellow bus had been erased. At this point, the sheriff's office, under a memorandum of understanding with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, opened a joint task force. The case transformed from a local disappearance to a federal trafficking investigation. Malone, during interrogation, broke down. He admitted the bus route was selected because the children were young and the morning shift meant less supervision. But he refused to reveal the location of the children. He claimed he didn't kill them. He claimed he only delivered them. To whom? He wouldn't say, but his voice trembled as he uttered the words. They said the bus was a vessel. Detective Grant and her team dug into private prison contracts. They found that a contractor in Florida had reportedly used children in unlicensed labor programs who were unregistered and off any official roster. The possibility emerged. Children from Pine Ridge had been trafficked into a hidden labor ring. When authorities executed a raid on the Florida site, they found thousands of hours of video footage, revealing children from various states performing menial work in harsh conditions. Among them, blurred figures of children remarkably matching the missing 14. One frame captured a lunchbox with the Pine Ridge District logo. The footage ignited outrage. Parents wept. Investigators gasped. And then the most harrowing revelation. One of the children's recorded statements, recovered on a flash drive inside the barn, said simply, "They told us Daddy would come for us, but he never did." That voice, that 5-year-old voice, haunted everyone. When the public learned of the trafficking ring, local grief turned to fury. The town of Pine Ridge, once tranquil and trusting, was thrust into national headlines. The investigation grew into a sprawling legal battle involving private contractors, state officials, human rights agencies. Yet even with all that, the most unsettling twist of all remained hidden until months later. In Malone's confession, he mentioned a name, Vasquez. Investigators found a passport in his records for someone named Ignacio Vasquez, listed as cargo ship crew, odd for someone who ran a human trafficking ring. The passport photos showed Vasquez with Malone's salvage company logo in the background. It dawned on the team, Vasquez was Malone's partner, and the container shipping lane from Georgia to Florida matched Vasquez's employment records. The conspiracy extended across state lines, perhaps across international borders. 2 years later, in the windowless courtroom of the federal district in Orlando, Derek Malone faced charges of conspiracy to traffic minors, kidnapping, transportation of a stolen vehicle, and more. The trial was heavy, the air thick with grief and anger. Families of the missing children gathered every day, eyes hollow, hearts clenched. Mr. Benton sat nearby, silent, his career over, his world shattered. The government secured plea deals with 2 low-level actors in the trafficking chain. Both testified against Malone. Their accounts confirmed the bus was stripped of identifiers, parts sold for profit, children moved through an underground corridor of exploitation. The jury heard recordings, emails, and shipping manifests. At the end, Malone was convicted on all counts. He received life without parole. Vasquez remains at large, believed to have fled to South America. The case remains open in that sense. The 14th child, Lucas Thompson, is still officially missing along with his classmates. No confirmed sightings, no contact. The families have been offered counseling. Survivors, when recovered, are placed in protective custody. The district installed new safeguards, biometric scans on all school bus CCTV, encrypted tracker modules, immediate alerts to parents if a deviation occurs. The town of Pine Ridge tried to heal. The elementary school held memorials for the missing children. The community erected a small garden near the bus yard, 14 trees, one for each child. Mr. Benton returned once to plant a sapling. He released tears no camera captured. Grace and sorrow intertwined. Yet for many parents, the wound remains open. The rusted remains of the trailer site have since been fenced off. Father and mother stare at coiled caution tape and think of lunchboxes, playground laughter, early morning sunshine that should have been benign. Detective Grant left the sheriff's office to join a national child trafficking task force. She said, in an interview, "This case showed me how normal routines can collapse in a heartbeat, how trust can be weaponized, how the most vulnerable can vanish while the world watches in disbelief." Some stories end with justice. Others end with silence. But this one ended with a rift between innocence and deception, between everyday morning waves and shadows waiting by country roads. The bus route was meant to be safe. The driver meant to be trusted. But somewhere along that route, faith was broken. We storytellers promise clarity. We promise resolution. But real life rarely obeys neat endings. The 14 children in our hearts stay with them. The parents remain vigilant. The town is reluctant to ever again accept an unmonitored routine. Every school bus that leaves a depot carries more than cargo. It carries hope, expectation, vulnerability. And so I leave you with this. If you looked at your own child stepping onto the yellow bus tomorrow, would you see the same scene you always have, or something changed? Because once the wheels turn, you never know which direction they might take. But there is something you should know. The name Vasquez still echoes in the records. The container shipping manifests still show silent corridors of movement. The tiny shoes, the flattened lunchbox, the burnt-out trailer in the woods are real. And they are reminders. The bus is gone. The children are gone. But the story is not over. Stay tuned for part 2 of this case. There are deeper layers, more names, hidden investigations, and an answer that may yet surface. If this story shook you, make sure to subscribe to Cold Case Secrets, where we uncover the truth behind the world's darkest mysteries. Thank you for watching Cold Case Secrets.